Hello and welcome, everyone, one and all, to our final Halloween Spooktacular episode.
Why did you start that like that?
What do you mean?
It sounds like the beginning of a Christmas book.
Like a Christmas Carol?
Yes.
Yeah, well, wrong, because a Christmas Carol actually starts like this. Marley was dead. Or something. It's something about Marley being dead.
Okay, but like, Merry Christmas to all, or something. What's the.
And to all good night.
Yeah, or something like that. What did you say?
Welcome, one and all.
Yeah.
But this isn't Christmas time, this is our Halloween time. And it's our last one. Aren't we sad about that?
Yeah, we are kind of
This
sad.
has been a lot of fun. I've liked this a lot.
Yeah. It's kind of fun having themed months.
Yeah, I agree. So I guess the next one will be, well, it'll be Christmas. Then we can do the season of love after that. If I sound sick, you're right. And if you're guessing that it's Micah's fault, you're right. She poisoned me.
You'd be wrong.
I'm pretty sure she poisoned
I
me.
did not. I never got sick.
I'm not. Yeah, because why would you poison yourself? You see why this doesn't add up? How did you not get sick and I did? Okay. Well, we said that we were going to watch our favorite spooky movie this week, and we did. What is it, Micah?
We watched Zodiac, which
Mm-mm.
is about a serial. So it's about a serial killer that mostly killed in the Bay Area of California.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the San Francisco area.
Yeah, northern. Well, it gets a lot more north than San Francisco,
I know, but just for those that don't know,
yeah, Northern California.
yeah. And it's the story of the police, a detective, Dave Toschi, who's trying to solve these murders, and also the story of Robert Graysmith, who is a cartoonist at the San Francisco Chronicle, so the newspaper there, who becomes obsessed with this story and this serial killer and also is trying to figure out what's going on. And I think this movie spans like 15 years or something.
Mm-hmm.
So spooky stuff happens.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. The one thing I would correct and change. Do you like that?
No.
Should that be my new thing?
No.
I thought of that halfway through your synopsis, and I figured I'd try it out. No, that's a good summary. I think that the first time I watched this movie, I was expecting it to be more of a slasher.
I wouldn't say it's that.
It's definitely not that.
It's like a mystery
It's almost
suspense.
It's almost like a police procedural slash
Yeah.
mystery slash has some slasher scenes.
Minimal.
Well, I mean, they show how many murders do they show? They show 3 murders on screen. The
4th of July.
The very first scene is one of the murders where the 2 kids get murdered in the parked car in Vallejo, and then they show.
It could be Benicia though.
And then they show Lake Berryessa.
Yeah, so up towards Napa.
And then they show on Cherry Street in San Francisco.
Do they actually show
downtown?
That one?
Yeah, they show that one.
From across the street in the window,
No,
though, right?
you see it.
Oh, okay.
You see it. So there's 3 murder scenes. This movie is long. It's a 2-hour and 30-minute runtime, I believe. And I mean, these murder scenes probably total take like 20 minutes, maybe. So there's a lot of other stuff going on in this movie that's not just pure drama action horror. And I think that really surprised me the first time I saw this. And the first time I saw this, I didn't really like it.
Really?
Yeah, because it kind of depressed me how obsessed Robert Graysmith got with figuring out who the Zodiac was.
But I think he has an obsessive personality.
Yeah.
That started long before this.
But this is when I was like in my young impressionable era, and I was like, trying to find a girlfriend or whatever, and like, thinking about the future and like what's my family going to look like in the future. And then this guy just completely ruins his family life because he can't stop thinking about the Zodiac. So I left that movie totally focusing on Robert Graysmith's family dynamic, which, it's a part of the movie for sure, but it's not what really you should be focusing on when you're watching this.
Yeah.
And then, now that I'm not in that era of my life anymore, I really enjoy this movie. It's really, really excellent.
Yeah.
What did you like about it?
Um, I grew up in the Bay Area of California, and so it was
Yeah,
kind of
near Stockton.
okay. Don't be disrespectful.
We got to let them know that really funny inside joke. Tell them about it.
No,
My,
Stockton isn't even in the Bay.
I think that they might consider themselves Bay
No,
Area. They might.
they might, but they're not.
Yeah. Anyway, I always make fun of Micah and say that she's from Stockton. And when I was first introducing her to friends and family,
That's all people remember.
I would tell them jokingly she's from Stockton,
I know.
and it's stuck basically. And now,
I know. When we first started dating, I moved to Ukraine pretty close after we started dating to teach English to little kids, and people thought I wasn't real. Like as a joke, like, "Oh, sure, your girlfriend in Ukraine, sure."
mhm,
And then I come back and they realize I am real. And then the only thing they remember about me is that I'm from Stockton,
right.
which is untrue.
Which Stockton is a dump, by the way.
So if you're from Stockton, I'm so sorry.
But it is.
We're going to be hating on you.
I've spent a lot of time in that city, and that city is a dump.
But being from the Bay, it's really cool to see all these different cities that
Hmm.
I've been to,
And you know so well.
yeah,
And the bridges that you've crossed a million times.
yeah,
There's some shots in this movie that are like super, I mean they're super pretty,
yeah,
but they're so nostalgic.
yeah,
Like zooming in over Pier 1 and you can see
yeah, where the ferry building is.
everything, and it like zooms over the Golden Gate Bridge. It
Yeah.
zooms over the Bay Bridge as well.
Well, and like I don't know the name of that bridge in Vallejo where you don't have to pay the toll.
Yeah. I mean,
But
it looks just like the one crossing into Concord from
it's not that
Martinez,
It's not
but it
that
looks
one.
just like
Because
it.
if you've ever been to Vallejo and driven across this bridge, it's the one that like goes up and then back down.
Hmm.
So if you're ever like, oh yeah, I really want to get to know the Bay Area of California, but I don't want to spend the money to go there, watch this movie.
Just watch Zodiac.
Exactly.
It'll teach you everything you need to know.
Exactly.
They talk about Napa. They talk about Vallejo. They talk
Yeah.
about San Francisco. They talk about, don't they say Vacaville at some point? I'm pretty sure they do.
Yeah. Or yeah, Sonoma County. Or yeah, probably.
They say the words Contra Costa are uttered. It's one of the counties that gets a curfew. I mean, you're gonna learn everything you
Oakland.
need. The Oakland,
Yeah.
you're gonna learn everything you need to know about
Oh,
the
and they
Bay.
go over to Sausalito on
Hmm.
the houseboat. But I feel like we've been saying this all month, but I really cannot stress this enough. We do not enjoy super scary movies.
I'm starting to think that maybe I do a little bit.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I definitely don't like gore and blood.
Yeah.
And so, like, like Britton said, this movie only has like 3 violent parts,
Hmm.
which if I'm ever like, oh, this movie's not that violent, it's because I didn't look.
Yeah,
And
she
then
didn't look.
and then I forget.
The violence in this movie when it happens is very upsetting. Let's say it's not going to be over the top gory, but just the way that it's presented,
Well, and it sets it up.
you're like, "Oh my goodness." And actually, I watched a video after we watched this movie, and the survivor from Lake Berryessa, the attention to detail in some of the scenes from what actually happened in real life, from what the people can remember, and then also from what the
Police reports.
911 dispatchers heard, like the conversations between dispatcher and the Zodiac are like word for word exactly what happened.
Oh, because he calls in a few times to be like,
Yeah, I'm
"Hey,
the one
what's
that did
up?
it.
It's me, your boy, the Zodiac."
Well, he reports himself basically because he wants people to find the bodies
Yeah.
and attribute them to him. But like, so they really made sure that they were really accurate in how they presented those killings. And the survivor from Lake Berryessa, spoiler, I guess, the man, it's a man and a woman that they're there, and the man ends up surviving. The man said that the way that they did that entire scene, how the woman is looking
Mm-hmm.
over the ridge and she can see him, and the guy is looking up, and he doesn't think the guy, that the Zodiac, is that close. He thinks he's on the other side of the water. And how she's like, saying, oh, he went behind that tree. And then
Just the whole scene.
the guy was like, "Oh, in real life," I was like, "He's probably just peeing because there's nowhere to go." And then in the movie he says, "So what? He had to take a leak." Like everything from being tied up to how far away the Zodiac was when he was pointing the gun at them, showing them what was in the magazine, and then the way that he did the stabbing. He was like, "That was exactly like my lived experience. I had to look away. I couldn't watch that scene."
Jeez.
And like that's the most honest. I think that's the most upsetting murder scene that happens in the movie.
Does he get stabbed?
Yeah, the woman. It's when the
Okay.
woman gets stabbed.
Okay.
And I'm just like, oh my word. But you will know it's coming.
Yeah, these aren't like a surprise. You're dying. It's like, hey, here's the Zodiac. What's he doing? Oh, he's coming over here. Oh, he's talking to us. Or oh, he's interacting with us.
I,
And now I'm dead. So
okay.
like, there's a build up.
Yes. Yeah. I will say that the two gun deaths that happen, they happen quickly. Like
But you know that it's gonna happen.
right. If the scene involves the Zodiac and you know it's the Zodiac,
Yeah.
there's a good chance there's going to be violence. So if you don't want to see the violence, then look away, and then the rest of the movie should be just fine. I mean, there's language, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is rated R.
Yep. There's language in this movie. It's not excessive. Basically, whenever Robert Downey Jr.'s character is on screen, you're going to hear
Yeah.
multiple F words, but apart from that, it's pretty tame when it comes to the language, and then obviously the violence, and then that's it. There's nothing else that you really need to worry about. So I guess we got the parents' guide out of the way early.
Yeah,
Feels good.
I think that this movie is very well made.
Uh-huh.
I'll just say that. Like, it's very well rounded. The acting, amazing.
Awesome.
This is one of those movies where you don't feel like you're watching a movie.
Yeah.
You feel like you're watching these people try and figure this out.
Yeah.
The script, amazing.
Yeah.
So natural. The cinematography, again, like Brandon said, like they have a lot of drone footage of like the bay, and it's so cool. Some of it, because I feel like a lot of movies of Northern California, like that are shot in the bay, they'll be like, "Oh, we're in this one city." I'm like, okay, well, that could be anywhere. This movie does such a good job. Like when they're at Lake Berryessa, they're definitely there.
Yeah.
I've been there multiple times. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, for sure, that's Lake Berryessa.
It looks right. San Francisco looks right.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I don't, it says that this is in the bay, but I have no idea where they are. It's very recognizable, which, again, as someone that grew up there, it's just very fun.
Yeah, I would be interested to know how much of it they filmed in the actual bay. I know it's really expensive to film in California.
Yeah.
But what they needed to get of California, they got.
Yeah.
It's sort of like Moneyball in that sense, where it really feels like Oakland. Even if it's not, they did a really great job disguising it. Just real quick, I'm gonna read you the names of the main cast. It's got a very strong lead cast.
Yeah.
Jake Gyllenhaal as Robert Graysmith, the cartoonist, the one that ends up writing the book. So this movie is actually based on the book that his character in real life wrote. So Robert Graysmith, Jake Gyllenhaal. Dave Toschi, the murder detective, is played by Mark Ruffalo. And then there is a murder beat reporter for the San Francisco Chronicle, played by Robert Downey Jr. And then one of the Zodiac suspects that gets a lot of play is played by John Carroll Lynch, who's in a lot of stuff. Yeah, that's the main cast. They all bring their A game, don't they? They're all very, very good. Who's your favorite out of the three?
Maybe Dave Toschi.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, just because I like his character, I think, the most.
But his character's super likable.
Yeah. But, like, all of them did such a good job. I mean, I really think, acting-wise, I think I like Jake Gyllenhaal the best. Okay. But character-wise, I like Dave Toschi the best.
I thought Robert Downey Jr. was great, too. Yeah. Especially on a rewatch, because he's a guy that has, like, substance problems. Maybe he wasn't even acting, honestly. I don't know.
I was thinking about that. If this movie is, like, acting in it, would be, like, triggering it all for him.
Yeah, because his character is an alcoholic and is on other things, too. We never specified.
No, they showed, like, weed and coke, I think. When he goes...
Oh, when he does a little sniff.
Well, that and
Mhm.
when he goes to his houseboat, they do a scan of his coffee table and it has substances on it.
Oh, okay. Um, but yeah, I mean he plays that great. I don't know if he's really acting or not. This would have been around the time that he's sort of coming out of his problems that
Are
he
you
had.
sure?
I think so, because his first, if I'm not wrong,
Was Kiss
his
Kiss Bang Bang?
yeah, his first one out of that was Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which was what year?
Oh yeah, that was only 2 years before,
Yeah.
in 2005, because Zodiac came out. Okay.
And so yeah, so he would have been filming this pretty close to around that time.
Yeah.
But I mean, he does an amazing job. He does an amazing job, and his character brings a lot of much needed levity,
Yeah.
I think, to what can be a long movie to get through. That's I will say that if people don't like this
It's very
because
dense.
they feel it's too long, I understand that. I happen to love stuff like this. I love Zero Dark 30. I love A Few Good Men. I love this too.
What was that movie that you watched that you said you had to watch in 2 parts because it was
Oh,
over
The
your head?
Irishman. Yeah, same. I loved The Irishman when I watched it in two parts.
Yeah.
I get it if you can't bring yourself to focus for this long. I understand that. But I think that this is a very rewarding movie to watch if you can do it. Or maybe, maybe just cut it in half.
Yeah. If you are cutting this in half, we cut it in half this last week watching it. And we just cut it in half right at the first date.
Yeah, that Jake Gyllenhaal has with
Yeah.
his
I think
future.
that was a good.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's just a suggestion. Back to like story, kind of. So I don't feel like we really talked about that. Should we?
I mean, they're trying to figure out who this guy is, and that is this movie.
Yeah. But the reason that it got so big, I would say, I mean, yes, serial killers I think are always going to get so big, but especially in the Bay Area, the Zodiac was writing letters to
Oh,
very large newspapers. So the San Francisco Chronicle, maybe the Sacramento Bee, probably like an
everywhere.
Oakland one, a bunch of newspapers all over the Bay Area. And they said, or the Zodiac in the letter was like, you better publish this or else I'm going to go on a killing spree.
Yeah,
So they did for multiple letters.
yeah,
They kept posting it.
over years.
Yeah. Or I guess publishing it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be surprised if any listeners had never heard of the name Zodiac applied to a serial killer. He's very famous. Um,
Because
what
he was never caught, also.
exactly?
That's
So
what's so spooky about this movie, also.
right. I guess this is a spoiler. Not really. You don't know who the killer is by
Yeah.
the end. You don't know for sure. I'll say you may have your. The movie definitely has its prime suspect, which I assume it inherits from the book that it's based on. And if your only knowledge about this case comes from this movie, you will probably believe that it's this guy too, right?
Same.
But in reality, we don't know for a fact.
Yeah.
It could have been more than one person. It could have been they could have been working together. It could have been multiple people claiming to be the Zodiac that weren't related at all. It could have been a lot of things, right? Yeah, like Micah said, that's what makes this so spooky is we never found out and we never will unless like some miracle happens.
We were talking about this the other night of some crazy thing in police work that you. What did you say the other night?
Like if some miracle technology gets invented that can like magic our way into figuring out who killed Hoffa and who killed X and who the Zodiac was, that's the only way. Like some sort of magic solution that just has not been discovered yet.
Yeah. When I was in middle school, I remember we had a sub for one class, and it must have been a Friday, so we had a short class or something. But our sub started telling us this story about how she was convinced that she knew who the Zodiac killer was. And I wish I could remember all the details about this story, or I could track down her phone number and just like talk to her about this for this podcast, selfishly, you know.
Have you seen the movie?
Yeah. Because that would have been, let's see, how old are you in the eighth grade? 13 or 14?
In the eighth grade?
Yeah,
Yeah, you're 13, I
you're
think.
13.
Ish.
So it would have
12,
been
13.
just after the movie came out, probably.
Okay.
So maybe she had. But it was so interesting because she told this whole long story about, and the basement. I remember her talking about the basement or something.
Yeah.
And people in California, people don't have basements because of it's unsafe, probably because of earthquakes that we
Fault
have,
lines. Yeah.
and that yeah,
How did they find out that he had a basement?
he said it or something.
It was in one of his letters.
Yeah,
Okay.
but just watching this movie always makes me think of that sub, like, and how crazy that was.
I mean, yeah, this movie is great. It is dense, but it's written excellently. I mean, the director is David Fincher, so it's going to be fantastically directed as well. He's sort of famous for doing a million takes and a million different
To get the
variations
right
of a
one.
take, and so he can just choose, what he likes best. And apparently Jake Gyllenhaal had a really hard time doing this because it was his. I don't know if he's ever worked with David Fincher since, but
Hmm.
he'd never had a director that did that, and he was like, "Well, what was wrong with that? I thought that was good." He's like, "Yeah, no, that was good. We're just gonna do it again. We're just gonna try a different one. We're just gonna do a different one." So, anyways, he's extremely meticulous in his process and very particular about what he wants, and I think that's probably why his movies turn out as good as they do.
Because he just gets really creative.
Yeah, for reference, he did this, he did the Social Network, he did the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, he did The Killer. Those of you might know Michael Fassbender from The Killer. His work in The Killer. He did the one that you hate, Gone Girl.
Oh, that movie
Um,
is rough.
he did Fight Club, The Game. He's prolific, very prolific director, very famous. Everybody likes him. Everybody wants to work with him. Women want to be with him. Men envy him. The deep state hates him.
What?
You like this? I'm just riffing at this point. Um,
Oh my gosh.
but yeah, I mean, it's a David Fincher movie with Jake Gyllenhaal, Mark Ruffalo, and Robert Downey Jr. about a serial killer in San Francisco,
And this movie does such a good job of like the suspenseful scenes. But
which we'll talk about in the
yeah.
spoiler section.
But also, I think it does an amazing job of dealing with police jurisdiction and talking about how
Yes,
obnoxious that is.
because you may hop on Wikipedia, and when it asks you for a donation, click the X button because you never donate, and read about the Zodiac killer, and you're like, how did they never arrested anyone? These guys suck.
How did this department and this county have all this information that they never shared with that county? San Francisco tried to get all of, according to the movie, tried to get all this information and tried to have everybody work together, but just jurisdiction got in the way.
But like they don't make the cops look like idiots in this
No,
movie at
no,
all.
no, no.
Like they are trying.
And like not all of them have the same technology. This is like when fax was a big thing.
Well, was just
Yeah,
starting
and
to emerge.
not all of them had fax machines. So then they had to mail things like
Or visit in person.
yeah,
Yeah.
which takes a long time to
Yeah.
travel to some of these places back and forth.
Yeah. And then the way that the script is written also, like there are some really funny scenes in this
Yeah.
in this movie, especially the montage of them interviewing all these potential suspects and
Mm-hmm.
and informants about people that have information about the Zodiac. I loved that one where Robert Downey Jr.'s character is Paul Avery. He's the beat reporter, the murder reporter, and he's really getting under Dave Tosky's skin at a certain point because he's reporting things Dave Tosky believes recklessly
Yeah.
that shouldn't be reported yet because they could cause panic. They could, mess the investigation up basically. And one person that calls in at the tip line is like, "Have you considered that Paul Avery could be the Zodiac?" Dave Tosky's like, "Many times." Just
Yeah.
like there's so many like little jokes sprinkled in and like awesome little funny moments like that kind of give you that second wind if you're starting to feel
Yeah.
it drag, and then it'll switch back to the serious and the wide eyes and all that. It's really good. I think it's actually really well paced for
Yeah, for
all
such a
all
long
that's in
movie.
it.
Yeah.
Should,
It is very dense.
it is.
But yeah, it's very well paced and the dialogue really gives you time to breathe. I would say and like
Yeah.
digest.
I will say though, it's hard to keep track of all the key information.
Yeah.
Like I've seen this movie probably 5 times, and I'm still kind of lost every time I watch it with like all the
All the
information
different names and who did what.
on
Who,
what day
yeah.
and like yeah, because it spans. I mean, it spans so many years,
Yeah.
so many victims, potential victims. There's a lot going on with this case as it has unfolded over the years and across northern and southern California.
Mm-hmm.
So don't worry too much is what I'm saying. If you can't keep track of everything, you don't need to have like that freaking scene from Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Charlie has that board
Yeah.
and it looks like he hasn't slept in a week or whatever. You don't need to do that. Like you'll be able to follow enough to get the catharsis at the end of who they think it is, because that scene is really good when Graysmith is talking to Tosky and
At the diner.
mhm.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about, I guess, in spoilers. Should we rate it and
Yeah.
and move forward? So, I mean, this is one of my favorite. This has become one of my favorite suspense thriller, scary Halloween movies of all time. Like I said, the first time I watched it, didn't like it. This is something that has grown on me over the years. But for me, it's a 10 out of 10. I love this movie.
Damn.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 10. My, you boys sure know how to put on a secret meeting out of 10.
Okay. I really enjoyed this movie for all the reasons that we've already said. Yeah, I think that this movie is suspenseful, but not super scary, I
Mm-hmm.
would say. Is this like, I mean, we've watched this a few years in a row around Halloween just for spooks and giggles.
Thrills and chills.
But I think I'm going to rate this a 9.5. And I don't even really know why it's not a 10 out of 10, except that I don't know. So I'm going to rate this a 9.5 Pong
Hmm.
out of 10.
Also, 10 out of 10 doesn't necessarily mean perfect movie. It just means,
And you enjoyed it 10 out of 10.
yeah, that's how much I enjoy it. That's how much I love it. It's
Yeah.
it's an all-timer for me in its category, right? Which it is. But geez, that basement scene.
Spoilers.
Yeah, spoiler time now.
So, like we said, I have not known a single person in my whole life that is living or is from California that knows anybody that had a basement.
No one has a basement.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Like in the Midwest, how everybody has a basement, and it's probably weird for people not to have basements. That's how it is in California, but the opposite. Nobody has a basement.
It's very strange.
Because it's
I'm from San Diego. Micah is from the Bay. So you're getting reports from two witnesses, north and south. This is not normal
no.
to have a basement.
And so for him to be like mention in the letter is what I'm assuming that, or a phone call. The Zodiac mentions that there's a basement. Like what?
And so they, all three of the main characters have their own moments where they're like, there's not many basements in California.
Yeah.
And so, that's a way to narrow the search maybe if you get a little more evidence.
Yeah.
Right.
So Robert is doing his own investigation. The case has kind of gone cold, but he, like we said, has an obsessive personality. And so he starts doing his own investigation, and along the way he finds someone that says, "Hey, let's meet to talk about some part of the case." So he goes over to the guy's house.
Well, okay, so
I don't remember why he was meeting with this guy.
So Robert believes that the Zodiac is a man named Rick Marshall. This is the main suspect that Robert is kind of zeroing in on. And he reaches out to a guy that used to work with Rick Marshall at a movie theater, because this is another thing about the Zodiac is like he's big into movies potentially. At least The Most Dangerous Game, the movie.
Yeah.
The Most Dangerous Game. So he reaches out to this guy that worked with him that keeps all the old film posters and film reels in
because he's
his
trying
house.
to find
A
Rick
handwriting
Marshall's handwriting
right
to match it with the letters.
Because he's trying to get an original left
Yeah.
and right hand potentially to compare with the letters so that they can positively ID the Zodiac. So anyway, he goes to this guy's house
And they're talking, which, like, what a dumbass going to this guy's house
by himself.
by himself. Nobody knows that he's there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so crazy because, like, it's pouring rain, it's nighttime. You're like, oh man. And he goes to this guy's house and, like, oh, this is probably not a good idea. He walks in the guy's house. And the guy, unlocks the door, they walk in, closes the door. There's a lock on the inside of
Yeah.
this door. Locks the door from the inside and puts the key in his pocket.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't think I noticed this the first time I watched it, but, like, watching it this time, I was like, oh, man. Why does he have a lock on the inside of his house? They're talking, whatever, and then the guy's like, oh, I have, like, a bunch of these movie posters. Like, do you want to look at them? And Robert's like, yeah, of course. And the guy goes, oh, they're just down in my basement.
Wait. Back up.
Oh,
Before
sorry.
that, Robert Graysmith is like, I need to
Oh.
see the posters that Rick drew.
And the
Because
guy goes,
it's the closest match we've ever had,
yeah.
and blah blah blah. And he's like, that's impossible. And he's like, no, this is the closest match we've ever had.
Rick didn't.
And the guy's like, I do the posters myself, Mr. Graysmith. And then Robert's like,
Oh.
Okay, thank you for your time. And then the guy's like,
No, he doesn't. He's like, oh.
no, he says,
Oh, really?
He says, thank you for your time. And he's like, why don't I just go see when we showed that movie, The Most Dangerous Game? I have them down here in my basement. And then he turns on the light, and Robert's like,
This is like the perfect. Like, it's almost one of those things where when you're in a room with someone and someone knows the secret and someone mentions whatever, and you make eye contact with someone and you share this special moment of, like, we both know what each other is thinking.
Yeah.
Robert, it's almost as though he looked at the camera into your eyes. He doesn't.
Yeah.
But it's almost as though he did, and you're both thinking, who has a basement?
Yeah.
Why are you here? By yourself. So then they go down in the basement.
And he's like, there's not many basements in California. And the guy's like, I do.
Yeah.
And then he starts walking downstairs.
And they go down in the basement, and it's super creepy. There's, like, one hanging light bulb, and he has to pull a cord. And he gets whatever information he needs. And Robert gets super spooked and tries to run out of there.
Well, he hears footsteps over him.
Yeah.
And he's like, are we the only ones in the house? And the guy's like, would you like to go upstairs and check? It's like, no, I'm just getting the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And it is the most tense scene.
Yeah.
And you're just like, the hair on your arm is standing up and on your neck. And I remember reading an interview or something from Robert Graysmith in the past, and he was like, yeah, I swear I heard footsteps.
I believe it.
Like, I heard footsteps when I was down there.
But it could be one of those things. It was a rickety house.
Yeah.
Wood floors and house shifting and all of that. But I believe it.
So this is actually why I think it could have been more than one person. Because the closest writing match they ever got was from this guy, right? Very, very similar.
Yeah.
There was maybe someone else there in the house. But that's not the suspect who you're supposed to believe is the killer by the end. It's this other guy. So, like, this is where I'm like, maybe there's more than one, and maybe they don't even know each other.
I just don't know, though, because one of them is writing the letters, and they send in that piece of shirt with the blood on it. And one person can keep a secret, but two people cannot keep a secret.
Yeah, especially if it's a serial killer, obviously someone
and
deranged.
Whoever is writing the letters is wanting attention, is wanting to show this off, is wanting to push the limits of getting away with this.
Yeah.
And so I just, like, sure, some aspects of having two people make sense, but two people cannot keep a secret.
Yeah, that's true. I also love that scene. At a certain point, Dave Toschi decides that he's done with this.
Yeah, it goes cold, and it has been cold for a long time.
And Robert is writing a book. He's trying to figure this whole thing out, and he's still trying to contact Dave Toschi, and Dave Toschi is just at his wit's end with Robert. And eventually, Robert comes to his house in the middle of the night and wakes him up, and then Dave is like, "I'm gonna kill him.
Where's my gun?"
And then what happens? Robert says the name of who he thinks it is, Arthur Lee Allen,
which is who
Dave thought it was,
who he really wanted it to be.
And that light bulb for Dave, and they go out to this cafe, early morning for breakfast, and they're just going over what Robert has learned. And I love this scene because it's like, Dave, a very capable, very smart detective, and Robert, this former cartoonist that has gotten further than anyone else has. And it's sort of like a, you bow to no one moment, Aragorn to the hobbits, where Dave is just like, you can tell he's visibly impressed,
Yeah.
and, Robert lays all this evidence out before him, and Dave is like, none of this would hold up in court. We
Yeah.
need evidence. And he's like, what do you mean evidence? And he says all the evidence, and Dave's like, it's all circumstantial.
Yeah.
And he's like, just because it's circumstantial doesn't mean it's not true.
Yeah.
And then he's like, easy there, Dirty Harry. Finish the book.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, Dave believes that he got it. I think, at
Yeah.
least the way that the movie showed it, and it's so well written, and just to watch this guy go from being super pissed off about being woken up in the middle of the night to, yeah, I'll hear you out, to like, yeah,
You did a good job.
yeah, you did good, kid.
Yeah.
You bow to no one.
Braden kind of mentioned Robert Graysmith's marriage falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wanted to just touch on this because it just shows how obsessive he is.
Mm-hmm.
So his very first date with his wife, I don't even remember her name.
Yeah, I don't either.
They go on a date and he shows up late because he's with Paul Avery talking about the case, whatever. Their date turns into working on the Zodiac case pretty much.
Yeah.
And she ends up, she's interested in what's going on. And then there's like a jump in time and they have a couple kids together. At the beginning of the movie, Robert already has a son. And, he's talking about how his ex-wife is married and has a new baby and all of that. He gets married to his second wife, what I'm assuming is his second wife. They never actually say. And he becomes obsessed, re-obsessed with this. It kind of ebbs and flows, and then it gets really obsessive, like truly not good for his health.
Yeah.
In his life and all of that. And so she ends up leaving him.
Mm-hmm.
And I love this line where she comes over to drop off the divorce paperwork, and the house, his apartment, is just full of paperwork all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
There's no table, there's no chairs, there's no couch, because everything is just full of papers.
He's having boy dinner. It's boy furniture.
And she comes over and she's like, "Are you okay?" And I can't remember what he says, but at some point she goes, "I feel like all of this was just the date that never ended."
Yeah.
And how sad is that?
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess if you're in that very impressionable stage of your life where you're going to hyperfixate on that part of the movie like I was, then maybe avoid this for a couple of years. Yeah, it is sad. It's sad that it had to come between his marriage like that.
Because he can't let it go.
Yeah. All right. Good?
Yeah.
Okay. We watched the Charlie Brown Halloween special. It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. And Micah didn't want to watch this.
I just didn't want to watch anything last night.
Micah was like...
Well, I was fine once you put it on.
She was dragging her knuckles on the ground.
I have not seen this movie in so long that it was almost as though I was watching this for the first time.
Yeah.
So good. It's only 25 minutes.
Yeah.
And it is funny.
I love it. I love that.
There are so many funny parts. I mean, there's one part where Lucy says to Charlie Brown, like, "Hey, you want to kick this football? I think you need some practice kicking the football. I'll hold it for you."
And you know what she's going to do.
We all know she's going to pull the football out from right before he's about to kick it. And he's like, "No way. Because I know what you're going to do." And she's like, "No, look. I have a signed piece of paper right here.
A signed document.
That says, I won't."
And they take it. A signed document? Well, if you have a signed document in your possession, then...
that means something.
Okay. I'm actually going to kick this football.
So he, walks a few paces away and starts running. And, of course, she pulls the football out.
Yeah.
You're like, "Lucy, you liar." She goes, "Well, the funny thing about this document, it wasn't notarized."
This is going to be me going into boomer territory a little bit. But I miss it when children's cartoons and animated, movies and comics, they're made for kids.
Yeah.
But they have an adult sense of humor in them that, like, kids would, kids are not going to understand why that's funny.
Yeah.
Why it's funny that she, she's using like a little legal loophole. It wasn't notarized, so you can't take it seriously. A kid's not gonna know what that means. Calvin and Hobbes did the exact same thing. Like the Calvin's vocabulary is completely unrealistic for a child of his age, just like Lucy's is, just like Linus's is, and
What's
Sally.
Sally? Yeah, because when she's like, "I'm gonna sue and I want restitution," what kid knows what restitution is?
No, yeah, it's ridiculous. I wish that it was like that. It's not like that anymore.
Well, and it's completely wholesome.
Yeah.
You know, because I think we're always going to reference Shrek in a kids movie having a lot of adult jokes. Those adult jokes are not they're adult. These adult jokes
are wholesome. Yeah.
And it's so funny.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it. And Snoopy being a World War I flying ace and
well, and it's so funny that Charlie Brown starts out telling that story about Snoopy.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know, when Snoopy's talking, quote unquote, it's Charlie Brown's voice. And then at the end of Snoopy's little mission, where he's making it across enemy lines and all of that, he climbs into the Halloween party.
Yeah.
It looks, imagination.
From the outside, it looks like this derelict, destroyed French home.
Chateau or whatever, yeah.
And then he climbs on the inside and he's at the Halloween party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like a little kid's imagination that is so perfect.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's really, really great. It's great. Really. Do you remember that Seinfeld where one of their friends, I think it's Elaine's friend, is always like, "It's great. Really great." No. Okay. Yeah, no, this is an awesome, and Charlie Brown getting rocks. What the hell? How does that even happen?
Every house.
It's just awful.
It just made us think, you know, because they're like, after every house, they're like, "I got a Snickers bar, and I got 5 pieces of candy, and I got a caramel apple." And then Charlie Brown goes, "I got rocks."
It's always a rock. He only gets rocks. Poor Charlie Brown is everyone's punching bag.
Oh, it just made me think of our niece. How like sometimes she'll talk and she like walked into a room and she just goes, "Here." Rocks.
Rock. I got a rock.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's great. It's so great.
Yeah.
I feel like there's something else I wanted to say about it. I mean, this is definitely my favorite holiday special from the Peanuts, and it's my favorite holiday special ever. I don't know who I'm kidding. It's my favorite one ever. I grew up with, you know, it's the Easter one, the Thanksgiving one, especially the Christmas and the Halloween ones. I've seen those probably, geez,
dozens.
I mean, at least as old as I am times, right?
I haven't watched in the last few years.
Yeah, but I've seen multiples, you know. So, I've probably seen those two 30 plus times.
Yeah.
This one is my favorite easily. It's the most lighthearted, the most non-denominational. There's even a joke about what is it? They're comparing Santa Claus to the Great Pumpkin because Linus believes in the Great Pumpkin.
Oh.
You know, delivering toys to everyone. And everyone is telling him he's stupid for believing in the Great Pumpkin, and Linus is like, "Am I stupider than you for believing in the man in the big red stockings who says ho ho ho?" And then they're like, "What are you talking about? Everyone knows Santa is real or whatever." And Linus is like, "At least the Great Pumpkin is non-denominational," or something like that. It's much more clever than the way I just said it, but I love that little, you know, that he puts that in there. I wonder if he did that like as sort of like a jab for what he's not allowed to write about and what he is allowed to write about.
After watching this, we were talking about if we're gonna have our kids write to the Great Pumpkin. Mm-hmm. And Braden
it's tricky.
Yeah. Braden was like, "Well, what if, you know, they get made fun of at school for writing to the Great Pumpkin because the Great Pumpkin isn't real?"
Yeah, and people are going to think they're stupid.
And then we were thinking about it more, and if...
You know, we could say, like, okay, this is just something fun we do. The Great Pumpkin isn't real, but we're just going to do it anyways.
But then that introduces doubt about...
Santa.
But I still think it would be fun, but also... It would be fun. I don't want to introduce doubt about Santa.
Are we going to rate this?
Yeah.
Okay. You want to go?
Yeah. I think that this is a 10 out of 10.
I mean, who are we kidding? Of course it is.
10 out of 10 World War One
Flying Ace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no. A 10 out of 10. Where the heck is Woodstock?
Yeah, Woodstock isn't in this one. I don't know why. That's interesting. But yeah, I'm giving it a 10 out of 10 also. 10 out of 10 extraordinarily hateful looks that Linus gives to Charlie
During the
Brown.
beginning of the credits.
Oh
So
my
funny.
gosh. I have never. That's something that my sisters and I thought was so funny all
Yeah.
growing up, is just this look that he gives Charlie Brown. I'll try to find a picture so you can look at it. It is just clenched teeth, pointed eyebrows, just razor sharp focus on Charlie Brown's face. He looks like he wants to chop his head off. He looks so mad. It's the funniest thing ever. But yeah. I mean, is there a holiday special that you can think of that's like more fun than this?
It's just like an episode of TV.
What do you mean?
What defines a holiday special?
Yeah, like like a show or a movie, and they release something specifically aimed at the holidays.
Rudolph.
You think Rudolph is more
No,
fun?
I'm just reading these off.
Yeah.
Frosty.
Yeah, see, I was thinking of these. Oh, there's the Muppets Christmas Carol. That's really good.
I don't know. If you can think of a better one, let us know.
I think this is my favorite one of all time. Like, the only one that could maybe come close is something A Christmas Carol, just because I love that story. But even then, like, this is just so light and easy to watch, and it's 25 minutes, and it gives you a cozy feeling, and it's really funny, and it looks beautiful too. Like, the hand drawn animation still looks amazing.
I really like the way that they did the sky at night.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. All right. That's it though, right?
Yep.
Okay, what's next?
I don't know.
Micah doesn't know. I can tell you what I'm watching right now.
We are out of the spooky season, which is really sad.
Yeah, I almost want to keep going.
No, you don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, you want to make it special, right?
Yeah.
Well, what if we just accidentally watch another spooky movie?
No.
You realize you've dug yourself into a little grave, because next year we have to watch the ones that you were avoiding.
Shit.
Yeah. Silence of the Lambs, here we come.
Maybe something new will come out that's not too scary. Silence of the Lambs?
Yeah. Haunting in Venice?
I've already seen that one.
No, I haven't.
Uh,
You want to watch The Exorcist?
No.
I'm watching Fargo right now, season 1. So I'll be reporting on that most likely next week. Are you going to finish anything?
Yeah, I have a book series that I'm about to be done with.
Book series, huh?
Yeah.
I started a book, I think, on Friday. And then, so I bought it on Audible because I had a credit. And I realized it's like one of at least 10 in a series.
Oh, dang.
And I was like, damn it.
So it's going to take you 10 months.
Right. I don't like to read series. I like to, one and done with the books. Is what I prefer generally. All right. I guess we'll wrap this up then.
Okay. Have a great week, everybody.
Goodbye, friends of Hagrid.